episode 2 of Fuck the Rules. Today we are going to dissect the rule of I have to be perfect. The reason I am bringing this rule up so early on is because it is such a common thread I see in maybe every single woman I've ever worked with. This idea that we need to be it all and we need to do it perfectly. We can't fuck it up. And I want to dissect this rule because, as I mentioned in our last episode, a lot of the work that I do is all about really dissecting our self-protective mechanisms. And ultimately, this rule that I have to be perfect it's developed over time, or maybe you've watched your parent do it or whatever it is, and you've picked it up and your brain has gone, great, we're going to use this to protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe. You may already realize that this rule, and look, if you're here, chances are you're aware that, striving for perfection is harmful. Okay. But maybe in the context of relationships, maybe you haven't gone that deep into it. Maybe there's a little something, a little nugget that you've never considered, or maybe you need to hear again in this episode. Okay. But this idea that I have to be perfect is incredibly damaging to relationships because you are always trying to meet a standard that is unachievable. So you're always you're setting yourself up for failure. And often this I have to be perfect idea, this belief is coming from actually feeling wildly inadequate even, not enough. So you are performing. You are trying to be somebody maybe that you aren't, not really. You're not being real and authentic because, like I mentioned in our last episode, we are human, which means we are imperfect. But when we are trying to be perfect, it is bullshit. It does not exist. Perfection does not exist and is only setting you up for failure. And because this belief probably very frequently is running the show for you, you are, again, like I said, setting yourself up for failure, which means that you are very likely frequently reminding yourself that you are good enough. Because your bar is here and the bar can only ever be, reached here. Like that's the max that you actually have because you're a human being. I'm really sorry about the lighting, guys. My bloody ring light broke and this is what we're dealing with for those that are watching the YouTube video. It's really grainy for those that are listening to the audio. Okay. I am not a fan, but I didn't want that to be the reason that I didn't show up. Again, not perfect. This is not perfect. And I'm still doing it anyway. Because yes, right, you can't meet that bar ever, ever, ever. So when you don't meet it, you're like, oh, I'm a piece of shit. And then you do it with something else and you can't meet that bar or those unrealistic expectations. I'm not good enough. I'm stupid. I'm not pretty enough. I'm too fat. I'm useless. Whatever the bloody story is that's beneath that I have to be perfect, right? It's like, what is really driving this? Usually I just don't feel good enough. And this performance, because that's what it is, it ain't real, actually creates so much disconnect in your relationship because you start to feel crappy. And that then might lead to you projecting onto your partner. I've seen this, I find it frustrating sometimes, even though the irony, I have done this and do this still to this day, just nowhere near to the extreme that it was. But it often then looks like, oh, he isn't doing this. He's not doing that for me. He doesn't love me like this. He is the problem over and over and over and over again. And this is really damaging because you're continually, often it's like, oh, can you work on this? Oh, you need to do this. You need to do this differently. You're not doing this. Oh, I hate how you do this. Why can't you do it this way? You are just enforcing in his brain that he is not enough, right? Like, why can't we lift him up? Don't you want to be lifted up? What if we focus on all the things that they're doing right? But it's so difficult to do that when we feel like a piece of crap, when we do not feel good enough, when we are not meeting those expectations of perfection. And there are so many ways, to be fair, that this can actually show up in terms of your relationship. But this is just one example that is, I see all too often. And more often than not, it's actually not about him. And there have been times where this is what I would call a loving bitch slap when I'm working with someone one on one or in, quite a close capacity. And I will say, okay, I hear you. And I know that this feels really real for you, but what if? What if this actually had more to do with you? And I can feel their resistance because it does not feel good. I mean, I'm really going right in with this episode. It does not feel good to go, shit, I'm the quote unquote problem. And I don't mean this in the sense of like right, wrong, bad, good. I just mean in the sense of like, actually, this is something one I have control over. So, yay, me. But also, two, I am actually creating a problem that isn't there. Not really. It might seem so fucking real in my head, and your brain is really fucking good at convincing you of truths that aren't truth, right? Truths that aren't facts because your brain is biased, because your brain's job, one of the its job is to look for evidence in the world to support your beliefs, to support your rules. So if one of those things is that, oh, he's the problem, then yeah, you're going to find evidence of that. Like if you look for it, you're going to find it. Your brain is very clever, but also very flawed sometimes in some aspects. Okay. So it is not a perfect computer system. And when we are continually putting it all on our partner, we're going to have problems. You're going to push him away. You're not going to see his worth. You're not going to want to give him love. You're not going to instigate intimacy, connection. You are unlikely to have vulnerable conversations because that means you have to look inwards or you have to be uncomfortable. And that is what's required. Truly, like if you want a juicy, gooey, deep, intimate, sexy relationship beyond your wildest dreams, okay? And again, not talking about the novels you read, talking about like real life, juicy, yummy, soul connecting, sex, intimacy, connection, all that, do you know where I'm going with this? If you want that, you need to be willing to be humbled. You need to be willing to be accountable because if you can't, you will continue to project and make him the problem. You will continue to, it's like there's a divide between you. And the less accountable you're willing to be, or the less willing you are to look at yourself in the mirror and say, shit, I have some work to do, the greater that divide is. Now, that work may actually look like boundaries. It might be speaking up instead of swallowing, instead of swallowing your truth. Maybe it's like it doesn't always look like you're actually a problem, okay? It's going to be so unique to you and the particular circumstance. But like I said, like my intention for this is for you to get curious and be like, okay, maybe you're sitting here going, all right, I can see that I am a perfectionist or I have perfectionistic tendencies. I don't even know if perfectionistic is a word. That I can see that in me. And I can also maybe see how I do tend, like I can see I can list. I can write a list of all the ways, all the things that my partner's doing, quote unquote, wrong in my eyes, how he's not doing good enough or whatever it is. And if I'm resonating, I'm going to just pause for a moment. Maybe you'll pause the podcast and go, could this be relevant to me? Is there some way that maybe I can take back my power? Because that's what you're doing. You're giving it away by making him the problem all the time. Along with, like I've already shared, a couple other ways that this is damaging. It's like, okay, maybe I get get to. Okay, like maybe this is an opportunity. Maybe you're at the right place at the right time, listening to the right thing or watching the right thing. And maybe this is something you needed to hear. And that gets to be empowering because this is something that mostly, you're human and, there are some things we just can't control. But maybe you can reclaim some of your power, some of the control here that you are actually trying to outsource by trying to control him or make him the problem. And you can do something about it. You can go, okay, actually, I don't feel good enough. And I don't want to look at that. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel like I am not enough for him. And the real interesting thing about this is I've had clients come to me saying, I'm ready to leave. This is like my last chance. This is the last resort. If this doesn't work, we're done. And I've had clients come to me and I've taken them through a bit of a process. And by the end of it, they're crying and their heart is so open and expanded and they're crying because of how much they love their partner. And, there's been times where they're crying and they're like, what do you want? What would you tell him right now? And it's, I'm sorry. And often it's, I'm sorry because I have been making you the problem. I've made you feel like a piece of crap or, whatever it is, because they had just built this self-protective mechanism of here's the problem because I'm so scared. So I'm going to build these walls, make him the problem, keep him at a distance, not let him get too close because of the what ifs. And I'm going to try and feel in control in that way. But that is really fucking damaging. Because it's doing the opposite of what you truly deeply desire. But that thing you truly deeply desire is actually scarier because chances are you've experienced, an unsafe relationship, whether it was from your parents. Maybe love was really conditional. Maybe you needed to pretend, to perform, to be perfect, to receive love, care, attention, whatever it is. We've all got fucking something. Our kids are destined to have something that will just fuck them up. I think it does it, but it builds our resilience, I think, anyway. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that we've all got something that is going to get in the way of us allowing ourselves to receive and give love. And it's often these unconscious protective mechanisms that we haven't seen, maybe up until now, or maybe you still struggle to see it. Maybe you're really like, this doesn't resonate. Maybe you don't resonate with the thing of like, here's the problem, here's the problem. Maybe it does show up in other ways. Now, I'm not going to go into all the ways that it could show up because I do want these to be kind of bite-sized and I could be here for a really long time. Maybe you need to go have a chat with ChatGPT and say, hey, what ways could I be cock blocking my relationship unconsciously because I'm scared to let love in? Maybe you could enter something like that into ChatGPT. It might spew out a heap of different potential real life situations. And maybe then you can be like, oh crap, I do that. And I kind of do that. And oh, I do that one as well. And if not, great. Great. But I think potentially you could still not be seeing all that clearly. Maybe. Only because I work with so many women, and honestly, we've all got something. It might not be perfectionism, but it probably shows up in other ways. And you're going to notice over time, this is something I speak about a lot. It's definitely a theme for the work that I do. Because it's like at the core, we're just scared. We are shit scared to let love in and to give love unconditionally. If we don't have a reference for that, yeah, we don't even know what it looks or feels like. So we do settle for the mediocre love. Where does perfectionism get in the way of you feeling enough and you creating that depth and connection with your partner? I want to leave you with that. Have a stunning day, gorgeous human, and I'll see you on our next episode.